Thank you guys so much for joining us. Today we have Allie Armitage with us to chat about a wonderful array of topics. Allie is a life coach, teacher, and writer, and she helps people create vibrant, fulfilling lives that feel true to who they are on the inside. Her approach blends self-awareness tools with an entrepreneurial framework to inspire people to navigate with more clarity, possibility, purpose, and magic. I love magic. As Allie has begun exploring her own insight through entrepreneurial worlds, she's found an opening of doorways, evolution, learning, and growth. She has led workshops globally across the US and now virtually, as we're seeing. So, and she also works with individuals one-on-one, and you can find her. We have all of her information listed below, her email and website address, as well as Instagram. Great ways to follow you and find out about things that you're doing. Like the other day, you did an amazing online writing workshop, and I love that you're offering little things like that. And it's so wonderful we're in this new world of virtual sharing. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm really excited to chat with you about control and letting go, which is, I think my hardest thing that I deal with. I tend to push, and I get hell bent on things looking a certain way. And then I get frustrated that it doesn't look a certain way. And then I make myself all crazy. And then I catch myself and I'm like, oh, you need to relax, you need to let this go, or you need to find a way to stop controlling. And my life gets so much better when I can find that moment to stop. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk to you today about how do we do that? How do we find the grace in that? Because I know especially through the pandemic, there's been a lot of things that we thought were going to look a certain way, and now they don't. And we have to come to grips with that. So how have you been talking to your clients about coming to grips with that, or realizing, it's okay if things don't look the way we thought they were? And how do you advise letting go? Tell me the secrets.
Lifelong journey.
Totally, right? I'm
I'm also still figuring out. Yeah. I think, and I also think specific with the pandemic too, there's a real grief process with what we thought was going to be. In everyone's life, something is dying, right? And so there's also really natural stages of grief going on, the anger, sadness, upset, denial. I definitely spent some early weeks in denial, being like, just come on, and then and I think that again, leaning into the feelings of that, it's actually really important to kind of be able to be with the realness of what we're what we're wanting so badly that we're trying to hold on to. And when I think about this, often to me, it's a lot about developing our trust muscles, because trust is kind of the thing that we're riding when we're in the stage between letting go and finding that flow. There's usually there's a gap.
Yeah, you're jumping over it. You are like, please let there be a safety net.
Totally. And it's gonna feel, the other thing I say to myself and to clients is it's particularly unnatural in the beginning, right? It's actually okay for it to feel unfamiliar, because we're so conditioned to think that we're in control. And when we experience another way of relating with our lives, with everything going on, it's uncomfortable. We have to kind of go on to this curve of growth where at first we take real dips away from the familiar, and we feel further away from what we want because we're doing something totally different. And then it really takes off. We've got to support ourselves in the dip and learning to trust, and what helps us feel supported, what helps us trust. And I think another piece that I always find really useful is to let go of the word control and pick up the word influence, because
I like that.
control is really an illusion as much as we
Yeah.
ever think that it's possible. We really actually just have influence,
Ooh,
and
that's
we
game
can
changer.
influence ourselves, we can influence others, we can influence the environment, but it's like our part, right? And it's
Yeah,
recognizing there's also these other parts, and we
totally.
want to learn to dance with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, completely. Well, I think that idea that like, yes, control is an illusion. Like we don't have control over anything. Like get out of here.
Right.
And I think that first step, first step alone, it's totally getting that. And I love that you changed that word to influence because um it has some less of a charge to it, you know, there's so much more gentleness to it, like how can I
Mhm.
influence this or that. And
Yes.
I think you're right, like developing the trust, and that is just something like you learn by doing, right? Like the more you let go and realize like, okay, this worked out, like, oh, that's blind faith though, like that's a crazy leap. And I found that the hard way too, like where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let go, and it does end up being better. And I'm like, you should do this next time, like quit it, you know, and it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
But I find too, like I might have mentioned this to you before, where I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, I very much like thought about just my energetic and like how I would feel. And I was thinking a lot about like say someone's thrown into water and they're kicking and they're flailing and they're screaming, like they start to sink. But if you take a deep breath, open your arms and just sit, like you're gonna float. You're gonna be able to float
Mm,
downstream. And so I think of that energetic with this, like the control is like the thrashing and like I want it to look this way. It's like you're not gonna, like you're gonna just sink more.
right.
And like
Yeah.
I know it feels counterintuitive. I know it feels silly to like open
Yeah.
up, like
Yeah.
but you're gonna feel that you're gonna flow, you
Yeah.
know.
Totally.
It's like for me, I get really into that, like the somatic experience of that, like the energetic of it, like what does that feel like, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the
It's a
energetic of
great
trust.
metaphor.
Trust
Yeah,
is good, like
it does.
it just
And it's
feels better. Right?
it's like also vulnerable. I think
Yeah,
that's
I mean your
what
chest is exposed, you're on your
right.
back, like
Yeah.
okay, I really hope this works, you know.
Yeah.
And it does
Totally.
feel vulnerable, but
Mhm.
there is a,
Also,
a safety, like a being held, right? Like
mhm, totally. Yeah, then we get met by others or the universe
yeah, or the
or
water,
life
or whatever.
or, something that we don't have to effort at all.
Yeah.
And I think that metaphor you use, which is so gorgeous, is also how much energy do we expend
Oh,
paddling like this,
yes,
right? Like, and
yes.
and it tires us out, and we burn out, and it's really challenging. And there's also this other alternative
Yeah.
to practice opening up
Yeah.
to.
I love
And
that. And I think about that, the energetic of that, like pushing and like spending that energy. And it's funny, like for me lately and in my work, like the whole gist of it has been like how to tune more into that intuition and really feel like if something feels right or if it doesn't. So I find myself tuning into like the energetic of something a lot. And you know, I can feel like if I'm pushing, or even if it's something simple, like I'm supposed to do this today, I need to get these emails out, like da 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 da, but like it feels like it's uphill.
yeah,
Usually there's a reason, like something ends up happening and I didn't have to send that email after all. But you know, it was like I was pushing and I could feel that it wasn't flowing, it wasn't smooth, it wasn't like easy. And
hmm
then once I like listened to that, you know,
hmm
it actually works out better in the end. It's like, oh yeah, if you listen and just flow with that, like, or these solutions tend to come easier, you know, and you relax into those things, like answers come. Like, I think you're right. And I'll get a little woo woo. Like, yes, the universe is like, that's when
yeah.
it whispers to you and gives you the guidance that you need. Like, when you can be still and not be like, nope, I'm going this way uphill, like that. So it's
Totally.
nice to sink into that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, the mind prepares all the plans, which again with COVID for me is like I had all these plans, it's like launching this new thing, this was going to happen, that was going to happen, move to a new place. And my mind had to go through the process of letting those things go so that
Mm.
like beautifully said. You can tune into this other intelligence that is
Yeah.
always there.
Yeah.
And really, if there's just too much noise here,
Yeah.
and not enough like making sure it all
Yeah.
aligns, and yeah, it's really challenging. And sometimes we just have to have conversations with this part to be like, I know, we laid out this beautiful plan, and it's not what is showing up right now.
Yeah. I think that's so good. That conversation, like you said, pet it on the head, be like,
Huh?
okay.
Totally,
Yeah.
because we'll also never get rid of it, especially from all the folks that I really look up to and admire, and really trust in their wisdom.
Yeah.
Almost all of them always say they don't go away. You just learn to be in relationship with them in another way, and you don't
Yeah.
let them have the driver. You like they're in the car, but
Yeah.
they are not driving the car. And so
I love
that's
it.
just how we learn to relate with all those parts, and
Yeah. Yeah.
recognizing, okay, you're here, cool. If I deny you're here, you might subtly start running the show. But if
Yeah.
I know you're here, cool. But
Yeah.
be careful.
Exactly. I love it.
Cool.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for this awesome wisdom. I appreciate you chatting with us about this. And thank you so much. Look forward to chatting with you some more. Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Pleasure. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Right now, I have Ranier Wood with me. Ranier has worked in the movement realm and is an expert just about the body. This woman knows all about it. She's been doing that for the last 17 years and has been painting women's intimate geographies for the last 6. Ranier, do you want to elaborate on painting intimate geographies? I love that term. I think it's amazing. And it's pretty special what you do. And I'm going to tangent one way too. Like you can find all of Ranier's information about this at vulvere.com. That's B-U-L-V. Hold on. I can't spell. VULVERE.com.
Yep.
So, but yeah, can you elaborate on that a little bit? I want to hear about like that experience for you.
Gosh. Yes, the elevator pitch of painting vulvas. I started it 6 years ago after this crazy vision kind of overtook me. I'd never even seen my own at that point. And have worked with women from all over the world. And the process is a lot about accessing their internal world through this ritual of radical vulnerability. So it's really about it's about the anatomy, and it's also not. It's really using it as an access point for them to reclaim themselves and get seen in a way that's not sexual, it's not medical, it's completely approving. It's 100% about acceptance, and then who they are just kind of seems to come through in these wild, rather often super abstract paintings.
That's amazing. I think that's such a rad thing that you do. And I think it's really important to, like you said, it's not medical, it's not sexual. It's like this different tapping into a woman and her femininity and even just who she is and all the goodness about her. So I think that's really amazing. And I'm excited for our viewers to kind of go check out some more information about that and see more about what you have to say.
Life-changing word for me, for sure.
It's all good. I love it. Well, today I wanted to talk to you about control and letting go. And it's a big thing that's been coming up. I know for me, like through the pandemic and being a recovering perfectionist, not quite recovered, I have a hard time letting go or like not controlling something. And I feel like through the pandemic, it's the ultimate not control and, being able to not project how things are going to come and turn out, and we don't know what's going on. And so I wanted to get your opinion and your wisdom on like how to kind of navigate that, because so often we find ourselves pushing upstream and just being like, I have to do it this way, and really not making life easy for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted your feedback on that, you wise lady.
I mean, I think so many people have different sort of reactions to and how they deal with control. You know what I mean? Like everyone has their thing that like when stuff starts to feel out of control, they try and control this thing. A lot of people, it's their body, with food, or a lot of people it will be their kids, or it'll be their appearance or their house, or these different things.
Guilty.
these things we sort of take it out on when we can't, when we just feel like we don't have a grip, like everything's going and we can't control it, you know. And the truth is we can't actually control much.
True. Like what?
You know that to an extent.
Tattoo it on my forehead.
And you can control what, you know, your own response to things. But even then, it's like you feel what you feel and you want what you want.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much control you have over those things.
True. So
So
it's hard to realize that though, you know, and I think like, where do you think we get that like false idea that we can control things? Like, how does that happen?
There are things that we can't, you know, like you go into the kitchen and you make a meal happen. You control it. You go out, you make choices. And there's I mean, it's like, it's this funny thing. It's like, we have a huge amount of power and responsibility in our lives. And I would argue that we create and really have a huge impact on that from our internal world.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's a form of control there, but it's not really control. It's like responsibility.
Yeah, I think if we call it something else, right?
You know, like we create these things, but even when you're creating, like that's the whole thing. Like you don't have control really over how it's going to turn out. I mean, that's one of the things that I think has been one of the best teachings of the painting process. Is it's like I'll get into a blank canvas with an idea of a painting, how painting might look. I know at this point there's not a chance in hell it's going to look anything remotely like that. But I have to have the idea that like gets me the carrot to like jump off the cliff. A blank canvas, and then the paint will go do some other crazy fucking thing, and I'll follow it, and it becomes its own thing that's accurate to the woman.
Yeah.
And that has been such a good teaching for me over and over again. You know, it's like you follow the impulse of the desire. That, you know, it's like you take the exit that says San Diego, which gets you on 95 or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to necessarily go to San Diego. You just need to get on 95. And so that's
I
like,
love that.
navigating in your life, that whole like control, not control is this constant sort of dance. And I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like women often are like, I want to control things and I shouldn't, and I should fix this about myself and blah, blah. And I kind of tend to be like, all right, well, cool. What can you control? Like, go give yourself something to control. You want to control something, like indulge it, like sate that thirst in some way that you can that's healthy.
Yeah.
You know? And then acknowledge like, where are you feeling powerless or where you're not speaking, like all that kind of stuff is like the stuff that's actually under that.
Interesting. You know? So it's not about like clearing out all your cabinets and, you know,
like that's my thing. Like I don't think that's wrong. If I can clear your cabinets, that's good for you. That is therapy, you know what I mean? Like cool.
Yeah.
But with myself, like I notice I'll when I'm having a really hard time, I often get to this place of like, oh, you know, I need to get a full micronutrient panel done, and I need to go on this cleanse, and I'm going to do this intense diet, because I have seen that food will make a big difference, right?
Yeah.
But I've now watched it in enough cycles that I've gotten to the place where I'm like, okay, hold up, like you're not happy.
Yeah. See, that's the kicker, right? It's like, how do you get to that place?
I'll get it, you know, I'll get happy because I'll make my body perfect.
Yeah.
You know? You? Yeah, that's really relaxing and nourishing for your body.
Yeah.
And so now I stop and then I'm like, okay, do I need to be doing, for me, it's often like, do I need to be doing more creative work in the world?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing what I feel like I'm here to do, or I'm not doing the stuff that makes me happy. I'm not seeking pleasure. I'm not speaking out shit.
Yeah.
Then I'll go try and control something that's more familiar.
And it's such a great litmus test, you know, if you can catch yourself in those moments of like, oh, gee, why do I feel like I'm gripping on these things? I think you're right. Like there is always something so much deeper in that river underneath the river, you know, it's like, what is happening under there?
Yeah.
And it's hard to catch, right?
Yeah. Like, for me, it's like, there's this assumption, you can assume that like how everything you're doing is wrong and needs to be fixed and healed.
Yeah.
Or
which
like,
I think we've been told constantly.
Read another book about it.
Yeah.
Or that there's like an inherent rightness to it. You know what I mean? Like the thing I've noticed is when I'm kind of when I'm in my groove and I'm in harmony and I'm doing my work and I'm speaking my piece, my body regulates.
Yeah. It knows what to do.
I know what I need to eat. I don't like It's not usually the time I eat 4 bags of cheese puffs a day, like I don't want them, like it's pretty
Yeah.
chill. And so
Yeah.
it is interesting when I start to like either like extreme out in numbing ways or like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's almost always, it's more about
That's
alignment.
so cool. I appreciate your ability to catch that and like see that in yourself, and like that's just such great wisdom to be, prompted to take a look at what's deeper in there. Because I think we all do have those tendencies.
Yeah.
Right. Once we are in that groove, like, yeah, you're not binge eating. Like, huh. I like that.
Okay, cool. Now I don't really want cake. I want to go like paint.
Yeah, exactly. Because your body knows. That is so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, and I think it's do you have any practices that you employ, like when you do catch yourselves in those moments, like how do you let go or get into that place of like, hey, I remember this is something that I do and I feel like I'm out. Like what do you do to like kind of catch yourself in that moment? Because I know like for me, like when I get in the practice of that,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to catch and be like, oh, remember if you just don't try to push this boulder up the hill, it's going to be so much easier. But I feel like that takes a lot of times of pushing the boulder up the hill.
Absolutely.
And, before you're like,
Yeah.
I know to trust this, or like have faith in the fact that like, if I let go and chillax, like that flow will happen. Like you're talking about that when you're in that groove, right?
I mean, usually for me, it starts with like a body scan, like
Mm-hmm.
going on my body and being like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, giddy up. And then I'll do some sort of tool that investigates. So like, I mean, I spring clean with you, which is like, we'll hold space, or another friend, we'll take a topic that I think I have charge on.
Mm-hmm.
It can even be like, what do you have on your body right now? And it'll be like,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah. And they just keep asking the question and just holding space, not giving any advice, just clearing it out, or I'll journal about it, or even like lay in bed when I can't sleep, which is often.
always.
And try on different thoughts.
Try
on thoughts. Like I'll try on. Yeah, I do this all the time, and it's
this.
How I truth seek in a certain way. Like I'll try on, like I'll try on. I need like what it would feel like to break up with whoever I'm with.
Mm-hmm. I just try it on.
I don't go that extreme, but or I'll try on. Like I don't know, just different things. Like thinking about. If I'm pursuing something, like I'm pursuing, I really want this to happen. I really want this thing to happen, and I'm trying to control it. I want it to happen right now.
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, well, what if it's not going to happen? And see if there's any relief in my body.
Totally. And really, I know you've said this before, like feeling either like a contraction and a tightening or an expansion and this relaxation. Mm-hmm. And that's true, because I think so often, like, we don't even want to say something out loud for fear that it just might be true, or we realize that we don't really want to do something, or that we're doing it the way we don't think we want to. And so I think I love that idea of like trying on a thought, because there's safety in there. And I think, like you said,
in the privacy of your own mind.
In your mind. Yeah.
No consequence yet.
Mm-hmm.
You're just seeing. And it's not that like, okay, you have that thought and it relaxes everything. It gives you a little more information.
Yes.
Like, there's some tension built up in that thing.
Yeah.
Or there's something there that I'm not looking at. Or whatever it is.
Oh, I love that. That is such a valuable tool. Very, very cool. Gosh,
I do in my mind.
I know. I'm like, I want a t-shirt that says like, I'm trying on my thoughts. Leave me alone. Like,
I'm just trying on a hard thought today.
So be easy with me. Yeah. I love it. That is so cool. Well, thank you so much for your wisdom about control and how to let go, and your tips on how to do that. I'm really excited to talk with you about more topics. But really appreciative for this good juicy info. Like, so wonderful and really great to talk with you.
Work with dynamically all the time.
Amen, sister, right? I love it. Well, look forward to chatting with you more. Thank you so much for being here.